And I remember when he stood for his sentencing, because the judge had to convict him, the statute was clear. It was a use of the American flag that wasn't authorized. ABBIE stood before the court, and when asked whether he had anything to say before the court-imposed sentence, he said, yes, I regret that I have but one shirt to give to my country.
Hoffman's yippies went to the Pentagon to exorcise witches and to Fort Meade to taunt the Army.
At the press conference that followed, when it came his turn to speak, he just sort of pointed over the fence like Babe Ruth, good American fashion. He said, we're going to raise the Pentagon 300 feet in the air. I can tell you, that made us sit up. Us working in the Pentagon, you know, we thought, 300 feet.
The yippies believe in the violation of every law in the books, including the law of gravity.
I took out my Pentagon ID card and went through the lines and went into the building because in those days I worked there. We were writing the Pentagon papers, a history of the war, top secret history of the war, in an office next to Secretary McNamara's in that building. So I thought I'd go in and see what the demonstration looked like from inside. Of course, I worked in the building. I was against the war. So was everybody writing on the Pentagon papers. So was just about everybody in that building. We were all against the war in 1967. But we were still doing our jobs, still working. It was a lack of imagination on our parts. We hadn't quite gotten the message yet. I went up to the Pentagon Papers room, and then to get a better view, I went into the next door room, which was Secretary McNamara's. It was a Saturday. I thought it would be empty. And I thought it was empty, but as I went in, I saw McNamara standing alone at one of the windows. So I started to go out. And I thought, oh, what the hell? I'd written speeches for him. He knew me. I went to a window adjacent to him. And I looked mainly at him because I knew what ABBIE and the others were up to outside, and I wanted to see the look on his face when the yippies succeeded in levitating the building.
Hey, now, telling you, hey,
Johnny was there, and Sally was there, and so was Baby Sue. Acid, Bob, and Clean, Gene, and Dick, and Ellie, too. Hey!
I saw the look on the poor soldier's face with his gun in the young girl's side. And all the boys of Dailyland dancing in the maze.
It is not that the yippies hate America. It is that they feel the American dream has been betrayed.
It's very hard to communicate how unbelievably brave he was. His man never backed away. He'd be the first one right on the front of the line when somebody was going to get their head cracked open. He'd be the first one in jail and the last one out.
Day of the moratorium, which was probably our most exciting day in court. We were prevented from having a day off. We were prevented from going around the country during the day and speaking about it. So we decided to bring it right in the courtroom. So we come in, we start off, and we had a National Liberation Front flag and the American flag, and we spread them out on the table. We had black armbands, and the marshals immediately want to fight for the flag. So here we are, you know, the marshal and me tugging on the NLF flag right across the table. And that's it, man. That says the whole thing, you know? And then, so they win that battle. Well, fuck it. We got loads of flags, you know, let them have it. You know, and then Dave gets up and does his thing, and he says, we'd like people to rise because we're going to read the names of the Americans killed in Vietnam. And he starts reading Joe Abrams, you know, Winnetka, Illinois, and on down. You know, and it was amazing. I think it was our greatest moment because everybody in the whole room stood up except the three prosecutors at the government table. Spectators, press, the marshals were standing. All the defendants were standing, and Dave starts to read. And judge comes in. What's going on in my courtroom, you know?
America has decided to devour its youth. We will resist. We will not participate in America's Children for Breakfast program. Fuck 'em.
In Seattle, some 1,500 protesters assaulted the federal courthouse, smashing down the door, throwing rocks, breaking windows, and firing a tear gas grenade. They moved on to a window-breaking rampage in the downtown section. Police arrested 79. Similar, although less serious demonstrations took place in Berkeley, California and New York City, as several thousand radicals violently protested the severe contempt sentences handed down to the Chicago 7.
We're free because 500,000 brothers and sisters went to the only courts we have left in this country, the courts in the streets, and said that they were on trial, they were defendants, they were part of the conspiracy. That's why we've come to New Haven to free Bobby.
ABBIE Hoffman started out with civil rights movement in Georgia and Mississippi from 64 to 66. Some people thought he personified the hippie drug culture, often attracting attention through what became known as guerrilla theater, a phrase we all learned then. He took part in such events as throwing money onto the floor of the stock exchange, dumping soot and smoke bombs in Con Edison's lobby. He is said to have appeared naked in church and to have planted trees in the center of city streets. Co-founder of the Yippies, he authored several books, among them Steal This Book, and one yet to be published called Book of the Month Club Selection.
Change is always outrageous.
There's no Watergate.
I don't think there's any change that is decent, law-abiding, and polite, and dignified. I think those are the changes that get you an appointment to Yale University. I keep bringing this up, Dick, because I've always had a Dick Cavett problem, because you have a certain kind of cynicism that exemplifies to me American Yale intelligence, and it's not. And it's not. I have a certain simpatico with your battle against the giant of ABC, etc. And at that point, I began to like you and consider you a kind of brother. But up to then, no, I thought you were just, you know, you said, for example, to Jerry once, politics bores my ass. And I observed that, and I thought that was a pretty interesting comment. It was hip on one level, you know, and it was going to endear you to the youth and say something nasty about Jerry. But perhaps what Jerry is into is not politics. It's not the kind of thing you would say to a senator, you know, or to a congressman that came here. They are certainly into politics. And those politics